Coach's Edge podcast. I'm excited to share with you 5 team building tips that you can do with your program, with your coaching staff, with your school that can go a really long way. I'm your host, Steve Kramer of Coach's Edge and Kramer Basketball. And team building activities are something that we do a lot during the summer when we do specific camps that I call closed or private camps where they're only for the students at that specific school. So we do those a lot. Especially in the summer. And so part of me working with that program isn't just designing a camp based on, okay, what the coaches want me to work on, shooting, finishing, whatever that might be. It's about helping this program build some chemistry, some culture, some togetherness. And that goes a long way. So these are 5 tips. I don't know exactly where I got them, probably from my mom, who does a lot of speaking and kind of consulting and things like that. So she's helped me with getting these 5 down. But when it comes to working with your program and you're heading into the summer and you're putting your summer planning with team camps, with probably a youth basketball camp, with some practices that you're going to have with your team the month of June, it's really important that we don't skimp on how are we growing together as a team, because if we don't do that and we're just playing basketball, we're going to lose some of our kids. You're going to keep the ones that absolutely love ball, but the ones that are doing it for relationships, doing it to be part of something bigger than themselves, and that's like the meat of why they're on the basketball team, you're going to lose some of those kids. And bottom line is, if we don't have chemistry, if we don't have a true team, right, we're not going to be able to fulfill our potential throughout the course of a basketball season. So these are 5 tips. These are things that I do when it comes to running these camps. Number 1, physical interaction is involved. Physical interaction. This is different than physical activity. Like, I could do a team building activity, but it wouldn't really be a team activity if I had individuals doing something on their own. There's a physical interaction. So what I mean by that is, if I'm throwing something to you, we're interacting, right? It's not just me doing a bunch of squats and you doing a bunch of push-ups. We're both physically engaged, but we're not doing it together. Being able to literally throw something to someone else, interaction. So the physical and the interaction is involved. This involves some togetherness and some teamwork, which we'll continue to talk about. So physical interaction is involved. If you're trying to do team building activities, that's a good one. Number 2, communication is overemphasized. Overemphasized. And so what I mean by that is, when you're in the heat of the moment, all right, when you're in a big game, you hope that your team isn't, giving minimal communication. If we practice over communicating, right? This is the same aspect as, hey, I want practices to be harder a lot of times than a game, right? Because if we sink a little bit, it's still going to be adequate for the level that we're at, that we're playing. Same thing with communication. If we can over communicate during a 5-minute group activity, a 10-minute group activity, right? That should help us when we're getting into game situations. So an example of that literally could be calling each other's names, right? So if I'm throwing something to you, and I'll give an example, and oh my goodness, I almost forgot, my bad. April 25th, we're gonna have a Coach's Edge meeting. Anybody can come, you don't have to be a member. And I'm doing a presentation on these. So I'm giving you examples. We'll share a little video. There'll be slides of me going into detail of these 5. So like, it's one thing to see it on audio and you hear me talking, but it's another thing to kind of visualize and see some things. So we'll have a PowerPoint presentation and a little video breaking down in more detail these 5 team building tips. So if you want that and you're a Coach's Edge.coach member, you can jump in live. It'll also be in the membership site, so you can access it later. If you're not part of Coach's Edge.coach, you can attend our Zoom meeting and check it out live. Just reach out to me and I'll send you an invite. So back to communication being overemphasized and physical interaction. Those 2 things can be combined into one thing. Me throwing the ball to you and calling your name. John, I throw you the ball, right? Something as simple as that, right? We have communication, we have physical interaction. I am throwing, you are catching. That ball is the connection between the 2 of us. Number 3, and we've touched on this a little bit already, but there is a team component to our activities. Again, if we came in and we did an exercise that was individual, right? That's completely different than doing something together as a team. So as a group, where our team is in a circle and we're throwing this tennis ball, as an example, back and forth to one another. And anytime that you have a team, generally you're keeping score, you're keeping time, you're going against another group, right? And so we're going to get into that element as well. But the thing that I want to emphasize with tip number 3 is togetherness. You're doing something together. You're not just in the same room, you're actually cooperating, you're doing something together. Could be anything, okay? So physical interaction, communication, we're doing something together. Number 4, there's a problem-solving component involved, right? And so I'll start to paint the picture of this circle name game. Maybe you've done it before, but it knocks out all 5 of these tips very, very well. So if we have 10 people in a circle and I give one person a tennis ball, and I say, okay, this tennis ball needs to go to every single person in the group. It cannot be passed directly to a person next to you. And we're gonna see how fast you can get rid of that tennis ball, make sure it gets passed to all 10 people in the group, and then it comes back, is tossed back to the person that started it, right? And so you have everybody do that, you time them, see how long it takes. If they drop the ball, gotta start over, clock keeps running, okay? So I pass to John, John passes to Sam, Sam passes to Kaya, right? And it keeps getting bounced around until it gets back to me, clock stops. Anybody drops the ball, we have to keep going, clock keeps running. That's the game, right? Okay, so you've done it one time. Now the problem solving comes in, right? So you don't give them any rules besides that. You tell them this is how this game's gonna work. And then from that point, you come back before you do it a second time and you say, okay, well, how can we do this better? How can we make this game a little bit more effective, right? And some people might say, hey, we're a little too far away in our circle. We can go a little faster if we get our circle a little bit closer together. Because again, I didn't say there was a specific rule on how far close you have to be, right? I just had them get in a circle based on their own experiences. Hey, circle up. So maybe some will say we need to get into a closer circle, the passes will be easier. Another person might say we need to throw the ball underhand, because there's always like somebody in the group who like throws a rocket at somebody, and it's like, whoa, dude, you're that close, you're gonna throw a rocket at me? And then you lose the ball. And so little tips possibly, right, for how they can do a better job. That's some problem solving, right? We're communicating, so we're getting some things there. And then, okay, let's build on the problem solving. Let's give them 2 balls, right? So when I say go, tennis ball begins to be tossed out, and now I have a second ball. So after I toss that ball to John, John tosses it to Sam. I also have another tennis ball or a basketball or a stuffed animal. It could be anything, right? And now I'm throwing that. So now we got 2 balls going around the circle, and we're trying to see, okay, well, is there a way that we can do it better now that we have another variable in here? We have 2 balls going instead of 1. Sometimes those balls will hit in the air, and then you got to start all the way over again. And so that component of trying to communicate and figure out how can we problem solve, how can we make sure we're not making any mistakes, communicating at a high level goes a long way. So it's not just the communication now of saying somebody's name, it's the communication to one another of how can we do this better as a group, right? Positive communication, we're not beating anybody down. And then the 5th one, which we've touched on a little bit already, is that there's competition involved. Listen, if you're a basketball coach, you're coaching a team and you want to win, right? You want to be better than you were before. So if that's the case, we can go for time and compete against ourselves. We can go against another group. If we had a coaches clinic and we did this, about a year and a half ago, and we had 2 groups, I think, based on our coaches clinic, and we had them do this exact same game, and we had them time, right? And so they were competing against one another, which group was going to finish this game first. So that's a way to do it. You compete against another group, compete against time. Those are opportunities, but competition is involved. That's a big one when we're really trying to do team building activities. And let's be honest, competition is fun, right? We all want to do better. We want to get a higher score, whatever that might be. So this is the tennis ball toss game. I don't have a name for it. I'm sure it has a name already. I'll try to look it up, whatever, see what my mom calls it when she does her thing. But physical interaction, again, interaction, not just physical interaction, that's one. Communication, overemphasized. Number 3, there's a team component involved. We're together, right? We're together. We're doing something together. Number 4, there's problem solving involved in how we can do a better job moving forward, trying it again, right? And so that's the communication, getting them to think, not just be a robot. We're not giving them all the answers as coaches, right? You might sit back and watch them do this tennis ball game, this name game, and think of 10 different ways that they could do a better job, but you don't tell them any of those, right? You just give them an opportunity to coach each other up. And then 5, incorporating competition into what we do is key, right? For us to do this, it engages the kids. It's much more fun. We can measure improvement in what it is that we're trying to work on, and then obviously that makes it more game-like, more realistic for where we're trying to go in the future. So that's the deal. Those are the deets on 5 team building tips. I hope that you found this beneficial, whether you watch it on YouTube, whether you're listening to the Coach's Edge podcast. If you want a much more detailed explanation and really presentation on team building activities and more examples than the one that I just gave you, reach out, contact@kramerbasketball.com. April 25th, 2024 is when our presentation is going to occur. Coach's Edge members will be able to watch it, anytime that they want after the fact. If you're not a Coach's Edge member, think about joining. If not, you got to be there live. Reach out to me and I'll send you the invite. Thank you for listening to the Coach's Edge. Get after today.